Welcome to Quiz Moose. Are you smarter than a Canadian moose? Let's find out. And yes, that was a moose call. Think you know Canadian crime history? Let's find out. In this quiz, you'll face 20 questions about famous cases and the justice system. You only have 10 seconds to answer each one. Some are easy, some are tough. Ready to test your knowledge? Let's start the quiz. Which Canadian man was wrongfully convicted of murder and later exonerated after spending 23 years in prison? David Milgaard, Guy Paul Morin, Stephen Truscott, or Donald Marshall Jr.? The correct answer is David Milgaard. Milgaard's conviction was overturned in 1997 after DNA testing proved his innocence, leading to reforms in how wrongful convictions are investigated. Which case led to a major inquiry into police and justice system treatment of Indigenous Canadians? Donald Marshall Jr., Robert Pickton, Paul Bernardo, or Clifford Olson? Donald Marshall Jr. is the correct answer. The Marshall Inquiry revealed systemic racism in the justice system and led to reforms in policing and prosecutions. Which Canadian case helped establish DNA evidence as a major forensic tool in Canadian courts? Guy Paul Morin, David Milgaard, Paul Bernardo, or Russell Williams? The correct answer is Guy Paul Morin. DNA evidence eventually cleared Morin of murder and triggered major forensic science reforms. Which case triggered widespread discussion about publication bans in Canadian courts? Clifford Olson, Paul Bernardo, Luca Magnotta, or Alan Wright? Paul Bernardo is the correct answer. The trial involved controversial publication bans meant to protect the fairness of the proceedings. Which Supreme Court decision set strict time limits for criminal trials in Canada? The Crown versus Oakes, the Crown versus Jordan, the Crown versus Morgentaler, or the Crown versus Smith? The correct answer is the Crown versus Jordan. The ruling established timelines for trials to protect the right to be tried within a reasonable time. Which case became one of the longest and most complex criminal trials in Canadian history? Paul Bernardo, Robert Pickton, Clifford Olson, or Alan Ledger? Robert Pickton is the correct answer. The trial of Robert Pickton involved massive amounts of forensic evidence and witness testimony. The case resulted in one of the largest investigations and most complex prosecutions in Canadian criminal history. Which Canadian criminal became notorious after escaping custody and triggering a massive police manhunt? Alan Ledger, Clifford Olson, Paul Bernardo, or Russell Williams? The correct answer is Alan Ledger. Alan Ledger escaped custody in New Brunswick in 1989. His capture required a large-scale police search involving multiple law enforcement agencies. Which Canadian criminal case involved one of the most widely publicized international manhunts in modern Canadian history? Luca Magnotta, Robert Pickton, Russell Williams, or Paul Bernardo? Luca Magnotta is the correct answer. Luca Magnotta fled Canada in 2012 after committing a highly publicized crime. An international investigation involving Interpol led to his arrest in Berlin, Germany. Who is one of Canada's youngest convicted serial killers whose trial attracted national attention? Robert Pickton, Paul Bernardo, Cody Lejebokov, or Luca Magnotta? The correct answer is Cody Lejebokov. He was 19 years old when he was arrested in 2010 in British Columbia, making him one of the youngest people in Canada to be convicted of multiple murders. Police discovered the crimes after pulling him over during a routine traffic stop, which eventually led to a major investigation. Over several months in 2011 and 2012, thieves stole $18 million worth of what Canadian staple from a Quebec warehouse? Hockey pucks, maple syrup, poutine cheese curds, or beaver pelts? Maple syrup is the correct answer. The Great Canadian Maple Syrup Heist. The thieves replaced the syrup in the barrels with water to hide the weight difference. Between December 18 and 20, 2012, police arrested 17 men in connection with the theft. Colonel Russell Williams was convicted in 2010. What was his high-ranking military role? Chief of Defense Staff, Commander of CFB Trenton, RCMP Commissioner, or the Director of CSIS? The correct answer is Commander of CFB Trenton. Williams had personally flown Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Philip, making his crimes all the more shocking. After his conviction, the military ceremonially burned his uniforms and destroyed his medals. The Greyhound bus beheading occurred in which Canadian province in 2008? Ontario, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, or Alberta? Manitoba is the correct answer. Vince Lee attacked and beheaded fellow passenger Tim McLean on a Greyhound bus on the Trans-Canada Highway. Lee was found not criminally responsible due to schizophrenia, a case that ignited huge debate about mental health law in Canada. Who carried out the Quebec City Mosque shooting in 2017? Alexander Bissonnette, Martin Rouleau, Michael Leonard, or Aaron Driver? The correct answer is Alexander Bissonnette. 6 worshippers were killed during evening prayers at the Islamic Cultural Centre of Quebec City. It was Canada's deadliest terror attack on a religious institution. Bissonnette was sentenced to life in prison. Which Canadian killer confessed to killing 49 people, though only convicted of a handful? Clifford Olson, John Martin Crawford, Michael McGray, or Robert Pickton? John Martin Crawford is the correct answer. He was secretly recorded confessing to 49 murders. He was convicted of 3. Many of his victims were Indigenous women in Saskatchewan, a case that highlighted systemic failures in protecting vulnerable communities. What major Canadian bank robbery in 1979 is considered the largest in Canadian history at the time? The Bank of Canada Ottawa heist, the Royal Bank Toronto job, the Brinks Montreal robbery, or the Vancouver Mint robbery? The correct answer is the Brinks Montreal robbery. The Brinks robbery in Montreal netted around $2.8 million. Organized crime connections were suspected, and much of the money was never recovered. It remains one of Canada's great unsolved heist mysteries. What year did Canada abolish the death penalty? 1976, 1962, 1983, or 1967? (1976) is the correct answer. The last executions in Canada took place in 1962. Capital punishment was abolished in 1976, and Canada now opposes extraditing suspects to countries where they face the death penalty. What is the name of Canada's federal prison that houses the country's most dangerous offenders? Kingston Penitentiary, Millhaven Institution, Special Handling Unit at Port Cartier, or Dorchester Penitentiary? The correct answer is Special Handling Unit. At Port Cartier, Canada's Supermax is the Special Handling Unit in Port Cartier, Quebec. Kingston Penitentiary, once Canada's most notorious prison, closed in 2013 and now operates as a popular tourist attraction and haunted tour site. Which landscaper was arrested in 2018 for a series of murders in Toronto's Church and Wellesley neighborhood? Bruce McArthur, Callum Vane, Silas Thorne, or Paul Bernardo? Bruce McArthur is the correct answer. Bruce McArthur was a Canadian serial killer who targeted men in Toronto's LGBTQ+ community. Investigators later discovered that he hid victims' remains in large planters at properties where he worked as a landscaper. Wayne Bowden was known as the vampire rapist in the 1970s. What unique evidence led to his capture? DNA, dental bite marks, fingerprints, or a lost shoe? Dental bite marks is the correct answer. Bowden killed 4 women, 3 in Montreal and 1 in Calgary, earning the nickname the Vampire Rapist and receiving 4 life sentences. This was the first time in Canadian history that dental evidence was used to secure a conviction. Which specific medication did Elizabeth Wettlaufer use to commit her crimes between 2007 and 2016 while working at long-term care facilities in Ontario? Morphine, insulin, digoxin, or fentanyl? The correct answer is insulin. Elizabeth Wettlaufer is considered one of Canada's most prolific serial killers. She eventually confessed to the first-degree murder of 8 elderly patients, as well as the attempted murder of 4 others, and 2 counts of aggravated assault. And that's the end of the quiz. How many did you get right? Tell us your score in the comments below. If you enjoyed this challenge, make sure to like the video and subscribe to Quizmoose for more fun quizzes every week. Thanks for playing, and we'll see you in the next quiz.